So it's my great pleasure to introduce my colleague and friend Jane Gunn, who's a full-time mediator, the Barefoot Mediator. Perhaps she'll explain the significance of that. And Jane has just very recently, I guess on the 1st of January, taken over as the president of the Chartered Institute of Arbitrator. So she's going to share with us not only her thoughts on mediation, but also her vision for her year of the presidency. So Jane, over to you.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you. And just welcome everybody. It's great to can't quite see you all, but it's wonderful to be with you all and to have, as many of you have said, this opportunity to sort of network and meet each other. And although we're not in person, we do manage to cover a much wider geographical area now that we're online, so we have to take advantage of that. And I wanted to talk to you today, as Michael said, about the Barefoot Mediator, why I'm the Barefoot Mediator, and how that fits with my upcoming year as president of the Chartered Institute. It rather shocks me, but I've celebrated 25 years as a mediator recently, and I wanted to look back and to think what inspired me on that journey. Does it still inspire me on that journey? And then to look forward, as I'm doing as president of the Chartered Institute, to see what the future holds for mediation and for all of us. And in our time together this morning, I wanted to talk about what I think are 3 key principles of what I call barefoot mediation, and how then we all need to reflect from time to time on where we're at with our professional journey. So back to March 2020 and the beginning of lockdown, I actually was invited to make a speech to another organisation, the Professional Speaking Association, on the 14th of March, which I can make available, where I reflected then at the beginning of lockdown what we didn't even know was going to be, where we might be going. But for me, that did spark a period of self-reflection, and I thought I need to remember why I became a mediator and decide what my vision and my role for the future is. And it's been such an interesting time for so many of us, hasn't it? Because mediation is, as it has always been, a sort of face-to-face event. It's something where you meet people and you're reading body language and you're listening to people, and you're making coffee for people, and it's a very in-person event. So going online for all my training and all my mediations really made me think about what is it, this thing that I'm doing, and can it work online, and what are the key principles? How can I use my skills and my knowledge and my expertise excuse me, and how can we in society now, because apart from mediation, there are a lot of big conversations that we need to be having. And so I wonder too how you're thinking about your mediation career and the need to think about that and develop that in these times. I really felt, I wonder if there's somebody we can mute. There's a lot of background noise there. I felt it would be really easy to continue to offer the same service to my clients without understanding and improving on that. And I've spoken to a lot of other mediators, and I know that they have a So I need to unmute now. Needing to reflect on what are the skills and principles we were taught at the beginning of our mediation career, and how have those developed? So many of you will have heard these stories, but I wanted to just go back a little bit and explore what inspired me to become a mediator. 2 things. One, both happened in about 1995. I was standing in my local library looking for a recipe book, and a hardback book fell off literally the top shelf and hit me on the head. And I thought, what is this? Do I sue the library for a head injury, or do I take the book out and read it and see what this is about? Now, the book happened to be a book called Love, Medicine and Miracles by Dr. Bernie Siegel. Dr. Bernie Siegel is a cancer doctor. He had reflected on his own practice as a doctor and said, what happens if I, instead of looking at my patient as a disease, put their needs, interests, thoughts, fears and concerns at the heart of my medical practice? And I was quite inspired by that to think, why don't we do that as lawyers? The second thing I took part in was the Tomorrow's Company inquiry. It was an inquiry instigated by Professor Charles Handy, who was a business guru at the time, who'd asked companies, what is a company for? And one of the findings that came out of that was, well, two things. We need to be more inclusive. In other words, as organizations, we need to be putting the needs of all our stakeholders at the heart of our businesses. And the second thing was the adversarial approach to relationships is one of the key things that holds us back. In our professional career, holds companies back and organizations and groups of people. And I found those two things to be quite inspiring, and they were the things that sparked my interest in training as a mediator. The third thing that I've gone back to many times is a book called Bringing Peace into the Room with Daniel Bowling and David Hoffman. And it's a series of articles. You can find several well-known mediators writing in that book. But one of the articles is on the 3 levels of professional development of mediators. And it reflects that you learn at 3 levels, or we develop at 3 levels as mediators. First of all, we learn the basic skills. We go on a mediation training course, whatever yours was, and we learn those basic techniques, listening, speaking, how do we question the parties? How do we structure the mediation? All of those things. The second thing is we gain a deeper understanding. How and why do those skills and techniques work? In what circumstances don't they work? We just go and put it all into practice with our clients. And the third is a growing level of awareness of ourselves. What is it about us as mediators? What is it about our personal qualities that influence the situation for better or maybe for worse? And how does understanding then our own journey with conflict and challenges enable us to be more aware of ourselves and our clients, and actually to be better mediators? So it's this sense of better understanding ourselves and being able to better understand our clients. So I created a map and indeed a compass where I could take myself on a journey of exploration. What has my own journey been? And how have I discovered my own personal mastery, and how can we then understand our clients by going through this journey and taking them through this journey? So I'm going to post in the comments later. I've written a blog about this morning, which is on LinkedIn, but just looking at, I've broken the journey down into 3 stages. And in a minute, Martin will show you the map. We don't need to look at it at the moment. In a minute, he'll look at that. But looking at crisis, what I call crisis, creek, and crossroads, exploring and reflecting on what conflict actually means to us personally, confronting rather than ignoring what's going on, and then an understanding and taking responsibility for the choices we make. So that's the 3 stages I take my clients through. I think we all do in mediation, but I'm then reflecting on what does that mean for me. So crisis, the crisis point, and in fact, Martin, you might want to just put the map up now so that people can have a quick look at that. So thank you, Martin. So this is the map I drew, and you can see right down there in the left-hand corner there's a storm. So that's the crisis point. For many of our clients, they come to us because they've had a crisis, or they feel a crisis brewing, and they need to reflect on that. So that stage for me of my understanding of myself as a mediator is exploring and reflecting on what conflict actually means. I know when I'm doing a training course and I say to people, what words does conflict bring to mind for you? We get such a plethora of words that it clearly doesn't mean the same thing to everybody at the same time. So trying to reflect a little bit on what is this thing called conflict? What does it mean to you personally? What does it mean to you professionally? What's this thing that you're in that is a conflict or a dispute? The second part of the map is, and I've done an alliteration with this, is the creek, and it's, you'll see it on the map. It's called the murky swamp of reality, and it's really where I feel my clients get stuck most of the time. They get stuck in this place, which is definitely like being stuck in a stagnant pond. It's sort of full of mud and weeds, and they can't quite see where they're going. And you know, the key question I often ask people in mediation is, where are you going? What outcome do you want? And they can't always answer that question. So understanding how people get stuck in this place called the murky swamp of reality, or the creek, and what's going on and what are we ignoring, and then reflecting on our own experiences of being in that time or in that place. And then professionally, are we perhaps stuck at a point where we're not quite sure where we're going with our professional career as mediators. And then the final point is the crossroads, and you can see that on the map. And that's the place where all of us have to understand and take responsibility for the choices we're making. And I know that being a board member and being a mediator, asking people to make their own decisions to what we call self-determination is often a challenging time. Many clients coming to professional mediation would much rather we made the decision for them than that we ask them to make the decision. So thinking about how do we ask clients to make that decision, their decision, and how do we make decisions when we're at the crossroads? And the third part on the map is the creator. It's climbing the mountain. It's being able to see things from a wider perspective and being able to make a decision, a creative decision from that higher perspective. And again, how do we as individuals and as mediators gather our experience, our knowledge and our wisdom to enable us to make more creative decisions and actually see clearly where we're going. So it's reimagining, if you like, how we can use the principles, skills and knowledge of mediation in business and society. And that's what really rediscovering my passion for mediation has been about. And I guess what I really want my year as a Chartered Institute president to be about. So my vision for this presidential year is really being able to take the skills and the principles of mediation and help everybody to use them in their families, in their workplaces, in their communities, rather as the Tomorrow's Company inquiry envisioned, and to be able for all of us as mediators and certainly as members of CIArb to be able to take those principles out into the community and show people how we use those principles and how we can use them to have some of the big conversations that we have to have around climate change and race and diversity and COVID and all of the things that are troubling us in our community at the moment. So the Chartered Institute's strategy for 2021 to 2023 has got three primary aims. It is to promote constructive resolution of disputes across the globe, to be a global and inclusive thought leader, and develop and support an inclusive global community of diverse dispute resolvers. So all of that fitting with this idea of spreading the word about mediation. So I think what I want to do and what I'd love to do is to involve all of you in this initiative, is to, as a global community of business leaders, of thought leaders and as individual mediators, I think we have a unique opportunity at this kind of what I think is a pivotal point in history to promote the essence and principles of dispute resolution. And I think this profession and the Chartered is full of visionaries, and so we can help the Chartered Institute to fulfill those aims, but more than that, we can help organisations and society to fulfill its potential to be a place where the adversarial approach to relationships doesn't hold us back anymore. I've been quite moved by and gone back to the book by Archbishop Desmond Tutu, where he says, in our fragile and crowded world, we can only survive together, we can be truly free, ultimately only together, and we can be human only together. So my motto, if you like, for my year as Chartered Institute president is let's piece it together. And just to wrap up, I came across this week, and I'm sure I've seen it before, and it's on YouTube. It's wonderful. It's a commencement speech for Texas University for Admiral William H. McRaven. He gave it in 2014, and he was addressing 8,000 graduates then. But he said, here's our potential to change the world. If you take 8,000 graduates, the average person in their life will meet 10,000 people. If every student changed the life of just 10 people and each one of those changed the lives of 10 more and another 10, then in the next 125 years, that class will have changed the lives of 800 million people. One more generation and you can change the entire population of the world, 8 billion people. So every one of us who are mediators, who are members of the Chartered Institute of Arbitrators, who are simply interested in dispute resolution, could look forward and see what would the world look like if we did really help people to understand the principles of dispute resolution, of mediation, and to help. I was really inspired by the person doing the work in Hertfordshire in community mediation. There's a huge amount of work that we can do out there. So a quote from Margaret Mead is, "Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has." And a final story in a little video to show you somebody I came across quite by chance who then came on my course. I run a course called, if anybody's interested, Barefoot Mediator, The Power of Resolutionary Thinking, and I'll get Martin to share some details about that. But that is a course that takes you through these stages of thinking about your own professional and personal development. And somebody who came on my course was a young man I had met a couple of years before, and his name is George, otherwise known as Gory Gang. He's a rapper. And he came on my course, a very young man, and has wanted to take these principles and understand how he can help young people who are struggling with mental health issues to understand how they can deal with their own conflicts, and in particular their internal conflicts. We ended up running an event called A Journey of a Lifetime. And George has created, I asked him for a rap testimonial. So in a minute, Martin's just going to play that for you. So that's it. I'd love it if you would like to connect with me. I post on LinkedIn most days, and I'll put in the chat today's post. If anybody's interested in doing my course on barefoot mediation, just let me know. And I'm going to do, I'm not quite sure of the date yet, but a webinar which is Awaken Your Survivorship Personality for 2022. So on with the testimonial, Martin.
Conflict resolution, there is a solution. It doesn't always have to be combative. Try being collaborative. We can get it right. Not every disagreement or dispute is a fight. Stuck in the vicious cycle, and it's the same song. We sometimes end up in conflicts and don't even know where it came from. But you can join the course for conflict resolution with Jane Gunn. It's fun, informative, and animated. Our conflicts don't have to escalate when we can navigate it. You get to meet great people from all walks of life. Getting the right skills to sustain your relationships is worth your while. Jane teaches us to use conflict as a magic ingredient, to learn how to collaborate with one another, and the results are immediate, both at home and in the workplace. Equip yourself with the right tools to avoid conflicts in the first place. So join Jane Gunn's course and become a conflict resolutionary. I personally completed the course and found it revolutionary.
Well, well, applause. I must say, Jane, I'm not sure whether we should be applauding George's musical skills more than your clear artistic and creative skills. That was fantastic.
Anyway,
now you don't get off quite so lightly, because we've got quite a bit of time for Q&A, and
yes.
as this is set up as a Zoom meeting,
yes,
if
lovely.
people would like, if we get stuck, I've got a couple of things I'll ask you, but let's invite people to contribute. So Martin,
and I'll put Martin
the moderator,
gallery view, so
if you want to speak, then either you can use the chat facility or put your hand up. So let's go. Let's see what people want to say and ask Jane.
And it's great to see some familiar faces there. Lovely.
Go for it. Who wants to? Who's going to answer? Who's
Any
got a hand up?
Questions, things you'd like to share?
Or are you all stunned into silence?
I don't think so. I see a few hands.
Alan Limbry.
Hi, Alan.
Hi, Jane. Lovely to see you, and Michael as well. I resigned from the Chartered Institute of Arbitrators because they simply wouldn't allow mediators and arbitrators to mix. They were imbued with the idea that they're two separate species and they should never come together.
Yes.
So if they had a conference or a meeting, they would never have a session in which both mediators and arbitrators were joining together.
Yes.
And so I'd love to think that by the end of your year as chair of the CIArb, you found somehow a way to integrate the two together so
Yes.
people can understand that
Yeah.
the two can work harmoniously. The same person can switch hats and operate as both arbitrator and mediator under the right conditions.
Yes.
And that has great advantages for people. So good luck and best wishes.
Thank you, Alan, and I really appreciate that feedback. I think, you know, there's been quite a lot of work to do to blend, if you like, the skills of mediation and arbitration, and certainly to do that professionally. So thank you for that, and I'll take your comments back.
Jane, Julie Ford would like to speak.
Hi, Julie.
Hi, Jane. Thank you very much for that. It's really, really interesting. Just from my sort of personal point of view, my experience is 27 years in the property industry, hence why I've decided to specialise in property mediation. As the redress scheme, we do really struggle to find other mediators with a similar background. And when we do take on mediators, whether it be as employed or contractors, when we're putting landlord and tenant disputes forward, we find that they're not too keen to take them on. And I just wondered if you'd had the same experience, or if you know of any specific property related mediation that we could start looking at to recruit more property related mediators. Thank you.
I don't particularly. I mean, I think it's sort of worth coming to this kind of event to find, you know, and reach out into the market. Maybe put some posts on LinkedIn, actually, if you're looking for property related mediators, because I'm sure they're out there, and that there are many. And, you know, maybe that's, you know, maybe you don't always need a property related mediator for some of your issues. That's another question, isn't it? Do we always need to be an expert in the area in which we're mediating? But I think, yeah, maybe put a post out somewhere, or reaching out even through the Chartered Institute network to find more property related mediators.
Can I just come in on that? Julie, I'm a chartered surveyor by background, and the RICS runs an accreditation course.
Yes, of course, that's a good idea.
So perhaps you and I can I'll contact you after today and have a word about it.
That's brilliant. Thank you.
Okay.
Jane, I've got Giselle Green wanting to say something.
Hi, Giselle.
Hi, hello. Thank you so much for such a fantastic talk. As a pretty newly qualified mediator, it's you know, great to hear all your experience. And the wrap, I think, is fantastic as a great way of people, which I think is really important. It's good to hear how you want to sort of promote mediation widely. One area that I'm really interested in is COVID, which is obviously the sort of the issue of the moment. And I don't know about you, but I've heard so many really heartrending stories, phone-ins on the radio of families that are kind of ripped apart because
yes.
a member is refusing to be vaccinated and they can't meet the rest of their family. And I just feel, is there some way that, you know, mediators could put themselves forward? I don't know who we would approach, or just to sort of, you know, publicize the fact that there are, you know, we are here, and maybe there's a role for us in trying to do that. And, you know, and maybe that could also help, you know, bring families together, and possibly also, you know, the movement to try and get more people vaccinated as well, because there are a lot of people out there who maybe are not just resistant just because they're not sort of aware of the situation, but don't want to become too political about it, bringing families together.
Yeah, I mean, it is a really important area of discussion, not well in families, but also in workplaces where people are, you know, worried about what protocols are and so on. And I you know, I don't come down on any particular side of the debate. I think it is important that people are able to have those discussions. And I've done a couple of talks on COVID, actually. One was how to disagree without being disagreeable. I did for one organization, and then for a doctor, he was asking me about how do we handle these disputes in the workplace. And I said, I can come on, not as a lawyer, not with any employment experience, but simply to say, when we have these discussions, we need to put three things at the heart of our dialogue, and that's the rule of law, the principles of law, and the principles of mediation. and how do we have a principles-based discussion? You know, that's very much where the Getting to Yes book goes. Move away from positions, talk about principles. And when you start to understand what people's principles are, what their needs, interests, fears and concerns are, and can understand them better, then you can agree to disagree. It isn't about trying to push people to agree with your point of view or disagree with your point of view. That's not actually going to happen. It's about understanding why people feel strongly about their position and how you can then incorporate a way forward as a family or a workplace to work around that, I think.
Andrew Westall would like to speak.
Hi, Andrew.
Hi there, it's Andrea actually.
Oh, Andrea, sorry.
No worries, everybody else gets it wrong.
Oh.
I want to just follow up on Giselle's question, because I trained as a mediator, but I don't practice in the normal sense. I use those skills very much, I think, Jane, as you were saying, within areas like policy making, and I've worked at international level, at local level. And what I'm finding is that for those big intractable problems that you're talking about that we really need to tackle this year, a lot of the people who are engaged in, let's say, the participatory approaches, the citizens' assemblies, are very good at bringing people together and the creative side of thinking, but not very good at handling and, let's say, unearthing to begin with those challenges, disputes, different ways of thinking, which means that the implementation of whatever is agreed doesn't actually happen. So I've actually literally written yesterday a blog trying to, and drawing actually on Victoria Harris's work as well, to try to start to bring this together. And it will be something I'd love to follow up with you and others that are interested, because I think it's absolutely crucial. It's like there's two parallel tracks going on, and they need, I think, to be brought together.
Please do reach out. I mean, if anybody's got conversations they'd like to have beyond today, I'm very happy. I'll put my email address in the chat, and just drop me an email and we can set up a time to chat, because there are these big conversations to be had. And you're right, it's about the way that we structure them from the beginning. You know, how do you get all the issues out, particularly in a sort of large scale format, so that you can have the right conversation with the right framework and the right ground rules, and take it. And it's the same in organizations, actually. You know, one of the things I've looked quite hard at is how can we have more effective meetings, and that's another area we can take our skills into, that people struggle and are struggling even more now with online meetings and online team meetings and board meetings. How do we make them effective and fun as well as functional? So there's quite a lot of things for us to think about there, again, as mediators. Thank you so much.
Susan Bloom would like to speak.
Jane, thank you for your insightful thoughts. I just thought I'd reflect on something. I'm a management consultant by experience, and a coach and a mediator. And when I was at PwC, I was introduced to the concept, which I found hugely helpful in my, excuse me, coaching, of future backwards, which might also supplement your map. So in other words, for those who don't know about future backwards, what is it you want, particularly my young musician coachees, but any client in a mediation, what do you want, as you said, as an outcome, and what's stopping you get there, and then working backwards to the beginning. And in a way, I thought it was very resonant of your map, because if the conversation maybe was started as what outcome you wanted and what's stopping you getting there, and then you go forward with your map, that might actually be quite sort of symbiotic. And also, I mean, ditto I'm actually at the moment in a culture change with a culture change job for a client, where, as you've just said, working to make sure that the underpinnings of team meetings, particularly leadership team meetings, are understood, and the principles are understood through the values. It all links together, really. So I just thought I'd mention future backwards. Sorry if
no, it's perfect. It's actually perfect, and it is about creating a vision of the future, and then thinking, you know, and it could be next year, it could be next month, next year, it could be 5 years, or it could be 200 years. You know, like thinking about 2 generations. How could we change the, you know, that's 200 years, isn't it, really? So
yeah, absolutely.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else, Martin?
I can see somebody waving there.
Hi, yeah, I'm Sushma Katecha. I've just recently launched an online holistic family mediation service after being a family lawyer in a toxic environment for about 27 years. And Jane and the rest, it's been really sort of intriguing and interesting listening to everybody. I just wanted to get a feel for what you said at the outset. We've all had to transform and integrate into the virtual world, which we're doing right now. Initially, I thought that there's no way that family mediation is going to sort of function on a remote platform. I was like totally against it, but of course you had to do it when COVID hit. And my experience now has been actually, it is working because I was thrown into the deep end and I've actually given up the legal hat and set up this online family mediation service. So it's actually been an opportunity and a godsend for me, but it'd be interesting to see, Jane, what your thoughts are on the future of the remote platforms, because, you know, I can see that there is like a permanent way forward, although there is benefits of face-to-face interaction, but it'd be just interesting to hear your thoughts on that.
Yes, I agree. I mean, I resisted it for so long. I didn't want to do anything to do with online mediation in any sense. I just felt we had to sort of sit with people. And I do still feel the difference of that. You know, when I go and meet people, it is a completely different experience. And yet I have found mediating online to be completely different than I expected in some ways for the parties, not necessarily for me. They may be slightly more relaxed. They're in their own home, possibly. Yes. They've got their own cup of coffee there. You know, they haven't had to dress up to go to a lawyer's office. There are things about the meeting that possibly enable some parties to feel more relaxed than they might have done if they'd come to a mediation. And also, one of the things I've been keen on for quite a while is thinking about not every mediation has to be a one-day set piece. You know, you can break them down into chunks, and that is also helpful, particularly in workplace or if you're dealing with families. So
Indeed.
You've got the opportunity to do that more because you're not trying to book an office and get everybody to travel there. You know, you can take the mediation and break it down into chunks and do that more easily without the time and expense of trying to get everyone together. So those are some of the benefits, I think. And I guess, like everything, we can think about involving the parties in the design of the mediation. I've always been interested in that and passionate about that. So, you know, thinking from the beginning, is this something that works better online, in person, as a blended sort of thing? Perhaps the initial meetings are online and then you all meet face to face. It's just more flexible. And I think the more we involve everybody in making that decision and explore the possibilities and the advantages and disadvantages, you know, then we can create something that really works. But I've been surprised and excited about online mediation, I have to say.
Likewise, yeah, thank you. And like you say, we're just evolving the model. We're having to adapt and work with the clients and evolve in a way that suits everybody. Thank you for your time. It's been inspirational.
Thank you. Thank you.
Jackie Lewis would like to speak.
Good morning, everybody, and good morning, Jane.
Hello, Jackie.
Hello, how are you? That was amazing. I also have probably 25 plus more years of teaching and mediation, and I loved your map. I'm a visual thinker, and it was really great. What I wanted to say about, mostly, although I'm cross-qualified, I do family mediation, and I have been overwhelmed at how amazing it is online. Recently, I had a dad in the Gujarat and a mum in Leicester.
Wow.
And that worked so well. I didn't know he was. I just saw the ceiling fan going round and I said, where are you? And also I do a lot of child inclusive mediation. I've seen a lot of princess bedrooms and Lego on the floor. And it's
wonderful. Yeah.
Amazing. And that's worked really, really well. So I wanted to say, who knew that COVID would be a gift in terms of you miss the body language below the chest. But whenever are you so close to a person's face?
I know.
Basically.
I know.
And it's a really, really nice way of building up trust. And so I think it works really, especially in the family field. So Sushma, I agree with you. It's worked really well. I just wanted to thank you, and I just love the map, so that's it.
Oh, thank you. And, you know, we wouldn't have Alan Limbury with us here this morning if we were in Fleet Street. That's probably a true statement, isn't it, Alan?
Where are you, Alan?
He is there.
Where am I? I'm in Paradise It's a place called Hawk's Nest on the New South Wales coast.
Oh my lordy. Okay.
It's just unbelievable, isn't it? It's
unbelievable. The world is very small.
We've been hibernating here since the week before the first lockdown occurred.
Oh, you lucky
And
thing.
changed our residential address. The best part is I get to play golf twice a week instead of only once.
That's great.
Well, Jane, you've got Peter Mcqueen online as well.
Oh, Peter, I'm just posting another LinkedIn link there, which might be interesting to people, and I'll circulate some stuff through Dave. I think that's probably the best way to do things. Circulate some things through Dave. Yes, Peter. Hi.
Well, Peter's down in Sydney. I just wanted to point that out.
Oh, I see. I thought he wanted to speak. Okay. Anybody else want to say anything?
Victoria Harris, did you want to speak?
Yes, please. Thank you. Oh, thank you, Jane, for the really inspiring talk. I really enjoyed it, and thank you, Dave, for inviting me for today. I'm really grateful too for all of the encouraging comments in the chat about the report Transforming Community Conflict. So thank you very much for that. I think my passion and inspiration, which I know is how Jane started her talk, is to make mediation accessible to as many people as possible. And I just wanted to let you know that the work from the report is continuing. The Civil Mediation Council are very interested in the report, and we're working with them to try and take some of the recommendations forward. I'd be really keen to work with as many people as possible to hear your feedback on the recommendations. Later today, because I know we've just had a bit of an international flavour of discussion, I'm speaking with someone from the Secretariat of Konfliktrådet, which is the Norwegian National Community Mediation Service, seeking to learn from them about how they managed to roll out this offer for their citizens. So the work is continuing. Thank you for your enthusiasm. I'd be delighted to link with anybody and hear your feedback. So thank you very much.
Fantastic. I think that's great. Let's all take the opportunity to link with each other in whatever way. I've just put my email address there. I see other people are doing that. We can link through LinkedIn, those of you that are on LinkedIn, but it is great to be inspiring each other in the work that we're doing.
Jane, Wangara.
Hi, Wangara.
Hi, Jane. Hi, Barefoot, and hi, Martin. Okay, great. So Jane, thank you so much for the presentation, and also for the colleagues who actually got you to be here with us today. I think this is really, on a personal level, it's really a great start for me in my mediation year, 2022. And this is because I'm building on my visual mediation as a skill, and also to develop it as a practice in my practice, and also to train colleagues using that. So I think just being able to see your experience map, that really just has given a booster. So if there's something for you to take away this year, I think you've added some spice to my mediation career. Oh. Yeah, so that now brings me to what is the inquiry and question is in the development of the new generation of mediators. Mm-hmm. Two contexts. When I talk about new generation, I am talking about young in age. I am talking about gender in the context of development of women mediators. And then also, thirdly, I am also speaking into the professionals who are transitioning from non-dispute related careers into mediation. And and I say specifically the transitioning careers because there are some careers. If you've been in peacekeeping, you've been let me say in legal, those are more a bit of dispute related professions. So mediation becomes like a top up. To what you're doing. Yes. So in those three areas, we have the youth or the young generation, women, and then also the career transitions into mediation. The fourth context of it is especially when it comes to people who traditionally, yes, are or have been in the dispute related space, but then they need to have a mind restructuring, you know, a mind like a reformation and restructuring, because then the way they got trained on handling disputes and what mediation really is. And here I'm speaking on, you know, whether you're a peacekeeper or you've been trained as a lawyer, mediation is not the context you got your training in, you know, just how we are getting that inverted. So really, yeah, just how we're getting a whole new crop of people now for the real mediation, you know, not a sneaked in mediation, which probably most of us have had the opportunity to be doing. Thank you and have a good day. God bless.
Oh, thank you for those comments. Really inspiring. Thank you.
Okay, we've got time for maybe a couple more.
Anybody? Anthony with his hand up.
Speak.
Anthony.
Hello, Jane. Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Lovely to hear from you, as always. I can't really remember the question, but I think part of it was I made a little comment online, Jane. The first question, I suppose, is reverting back to whether or not we can revisit the idea of some cross between arbitration and mediation. We talked about MedArb, but so few of us have actually done those in practice as to whether that is a usable tool, an attractive tool, or whether the two are entirely separate. That was my first question. The second question is, I'm so pleased, oh, it's not a question, it's I'm so pleased to be back to face-to-face meetings, and I very much look forward to seeing you in June at the Association of Northern Mediators annual gathering. Yes, we're back.
Yes, looking forward to that. Thank you.
Okay, Martin, any more?
I think that's a lot.
Okay, well, am I allowed a question? I suppose I'll allow myself a question. I've been listening, you see. I've been listening and reflecting, reflection was kind of the main thing I took from this, Jane. If you look at what's going on in the public arena with Novak Djokovic, and also what's going on with number 10, I just wonder what your thoughts on what seemed to me to be two very adversarial processes, which is going to result in lose-lose. And I just wonder, you know, how one might approach that differently without taking a political stance.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because once it's become so public, you know, I think I go back to, and I often do, is to this process of escalation and how quickly conflict escalates. It's one of the slides I use a lot, or even draw up on a flip chart for clients, and to say, you know, it starts here with a conversation, you know, clearly even the Novak Djokovic thing, it starts with a conversation that didn't happen or didn't happen very well somewhere. The wires have got crossed, and then it escalates. And where it escalates to is that nobody wants to lose face. You know, the government doesn't want to lose face. Djokovic doesn't want to lose face. His legal team don't want to lose face. And how do we, as mediators, encourage people to catch something earlier, you know, to have the more effective conversation? The going public with it is all about sort of, you know, firing ammunition at each other, isn't it? And using the media to do that. But where we get to is where they're at now, is how do you enable people to be seen to be resolving the problem in a practical and principled way without losing face? And I don't know the answer to those two particular problems. You'd have to work with the parties, but that's what they need to be thinking about. It isn't about keep firing ammunition at each other, because they will both lose, and they'll end up in what you may have seen on the map as the nowhere abyss. You know, you end up in the deep abyss. There's nowhere you can go. And I think so often people have got to think about what is it that enables people to save face, and how do they do that? That's my.
Yeah, I thought they were in the swamp, actually.
Might still be in the. They're in the swamp at the moment.
They haven't even got to the abyss.
No, they haven't got to the abyss yet, but they're going there fast. Is the answer, I think. Yeah.
Well, Jane, as so many people have said, that was absolutely fabulous and inspirational. Thank you. And we wish you very, very well for your year as the president of the Chartered Institute of Arbitrators. And
thank you. I'm looking forward to it.
And look forward to, you know, arbitrators and mediators do talk to each other now, which is, something we've encouraged here. We had the president of the London Maritime Arbitrators Association and a past president talking at one of the last meetings. So
yeah,
I think things are moving in the right. So thank you.
That's a great message for me to take away. Thank you. And yeah, let's all keep in touch. I'll send some information out through Dave, which is probably the easiest way than posting it in the chat box. And if anybody wants to be in touch with me on my email address or LinkedIn, you've got those there. So thank you very much.
Okay, well, thank you, everybody. I'm going to ask Dave in a minute just to talk about our next meeting, but we will Martin will leave the meeting open for about the next 15 minutes if people like to network and chat. So Dave, over to you. Read the next meeting, which I think is really exciting and goes back to, how do we generate the next generation of mediators, or the one after that maybe.
Thank you, Michael. Yes, the next meeting is going to be on Wednesday, the 9th of March, and it will be a panel discussion led by Ben Waters of CCCU, Canterbury Christchurch University, and it will be on the work that people are doing in teaching mediation in universities. Ben is hosting the university students mediation competition later this month, as his group won it last time. So I'll send a save the date on that soon. Just for future reference, if you don't get the link for any meeting by noon the previous day, can you please email me and I'll send it through to you. I did send the last link by round robin, but quite a few people didn't seem to get it.
Okay, Dave, fantastic. Well, thank you so much, everybody. We'll leave the meeting open. Since it's not raining, I'm going to walk the dog, and I wish you all a very safe and prosperous day. Thank you again.
Thanks very much, Jane.
Thank you, Jane. Thank you.